So, just now we've got a ton of new information about Assassin Creed Valhalla's story, and not just that trailer, but also an interview with Darby Mcdevitt talking about a ton of stuff in Valhalla narrative-wise. So we'll get into that after looking at the trailer, and if you do want to see that trailer in full without me getting in the way, I'll drop a link to that in the description.
You intrigue me, Wolf-Kissed. Orphan and sibling, warrior and poet.
So, you're probably wondering who's who here, the orphan and the sibling. Eivor is the orphan, you know, dead parents, a must-have for any classic AC. Eivor was basically taken in by Sigurd's parents after they died. There's a lot more information about that in the interview, and we'll get into that later.
You are many in one, it seems.
So here we see Eivor in what seems to be an abandoned assassin hideout. The trailer teases the beginning of the story, and so it's a fair guess to assume they find this hideout towards the beginning of the game. This could be where Eivor learns of the assassin and Templar conflict, or maybe that the assassins were driven out of there by Templars. I say Templars, they're the Order of Ancients, but they're basically proto-Templars. In this shot we see what's presumably our base in Norway. You can even see this building off in the distance, which perfectly matches up to this one in the cinematic trailer.
Eivor!
Sigurd! I missed you, brother.
Randvi, your husband returns.
So here we see Sigurd return from a voyage, and this woman, Randvi. So to clear this up, a bunch of people thought this was Kassandra back during UB Forward, and it was cleared up she wasn't then, and Darby has again made it clear she isn't Kassandra and has no connection to her, she's just Sigurd's wife.
Bringing gifts and riches to share.
And new friends, I see.
So this is where the trailer gets really interesting. Sigurd arrives back home with their hidden blade and also new friends who are clearly assassins, or at this time the hidden ones. The interview mentions that Sigurd has returned from Constantinople, which of course is a very important place to the assassins. The assassins who actually arrive with Sigurd are in robes that look very similar to the iconic Levantine robes, and Constantinople geographically does neighbour the Levant region. Also, this assassin we have seen before in one of the trailers from UB Forward, where we see him, Sigurd and Eivor seemingly meeting King Alfred.
We cannot stay in Norway, not without fueling more war, so we push forward. A new kingdom awaits.
The fact that we see Sigurd opt to move to England after these assassins arrive makes me think that the assassins made Eivor move to England. Sigurd saying they can't stay without creating more war suggests to me that the Templars are already causing Norway trouble. And personally, I think they're looking for this Isu site, which Darby has teased just a little bit.
Kingdom awaits.
From here to Valhalla, I will always be on your side, Sigurd. Always.
Next, we get the title drop. And like, there is no way this isn't the title drop. We've already seen lots of symbolic parallels between Valhalla and older titles, and this of course would be another of those, feeling a lot like AC2's title drop. I have a feeling this will be very bitter in hindsight, but we'll get into why exactly when we talk about that interview.
Eivor, Sigurd, I give you England.
This land already has many rulers. From the cunning King Alfred of Wessex, to the warmongering sons of Ragnar Lothbrok.
So as soon as we arrive in England, we're made familiar with its rulers. Alfred we're already familiar with. Darby has said he won't just be some two-dimensional villain and is going to be more fleshed out than just, you know, your typical Templar. And this is our second time seeing Eivor meeting Alfred. Whether it's, you know, later during the same meeting or afterwards is yet to be seen, and things do look quite contentious, which is natural with Eivor being a Viking and Alfred, the King of Wessex, trying to get them out of England. The sons of Ragnar are also quite interesting. We've seen some of Ragnar's former soldiers, or Drengr as we've seen them called, are actually boss fights we can do. Whether those two cross over remains to be seen.
They have no wish to share the kingdoms they have made their own.
Here we see the kingdoms of England. This looks a little like that screenshot of Lincoln Derby posted, which would fall under Mercia. We see Stonehenge, which is in Wessex, and also this place, which we can see a few frames later, is our settlement, which is most likely in Northumbria.
Nor any others who would harm us. These lands.
Now here we see Eivor sneaking around this city, which seems to be Lincoln, and in that UB Forward event we also saw Eivor sneaking around Lincoln using social stealth. It was made a point of that there were certain places where Eivor wasn't welcome. I'd say this could be a hint that something big would happen there story-wise that would antagonise Eivor's clan, but just by nature of being Vikings, that makes sense as is.
I will do whatever it takes to make England our home. The Saxons hunger for Norse blood. Let's give them a taste.
So this basically backs up what we already knew, that we'd find a home in England and the Saxons would try and drive us out. We do get some close-ups here of this guard, and also we see this one again for the third time this trailer. Initially, I just thought this was another one of those massive guards that served as like a mini-boss in Origins, but seeing him multiple times make it seem like he's something of an antagonist in the game, but that's all I can make out about him really.
These conquests have given you a home, but there is more to this land, Eivor. A darkness unseen, an unknowable threat. One bound to England's destiny, and to yours.
Right, so the end of the trailer is insane. The assassin talks of an unknowable threat that goes unseen, and here we see who is presumably a member of the Order of Ancients, and we hear that they're bound to England's destiny and to ours. What I love is seeing this member of the Order in red, a Templar colour donning a cross. It's very intentionally Templar-esque, and it gets me so hyped knowing that we'll see how the Templars became the Templars we know in AC1, as the more Crusader-like Templars as opposed to the Order of Ancients, which they still are in this game. The story of Valhalla has been what I've been most hyped for ever since it was announced that Darby was the narrative director, and seeing assassins from Constantinople in Levantine robes, us being roped back into this conflict I've loved and missed so much, is great. This is undoubtedly my favourite trailer for the game so far, and I'm more hyped for the game than I was before. Also, before getting into that interview, Ubisoft released some promo images for the game, which look great. We now know that this assassin is Basim, who looks so fucking cool, and also we can see him again here in a very similar shot to that iconic Revelations promo. So anyway, onto this interview, and if you do want to read this for yourself, I'll link it in the description. So the first question is, one of the first things this trailer reveals is that Eivor has a sibling. What can you tell us about that relationship? Odyssey made your sibling one of the main antagonists. Can we expect them to play a pivotal role here as well? And Darby says yes, going on to explain how they were adopted by Sigurd's father, King Steerborn of Furberg, and explains how Sigurd trained Eivor into the warrior we are now. He also expresses he has a darker side to him which concerns Eivor, and now it's time for a theory that'll age about as well as my adoration for Ashraf Ismail. I think Sigurd is going to become a member of the Order of Ancients. As well as expressing that he has that darker side, Darby mentions his ambition, which I could easily see morph into a want for control, bred into him by his father, a king, as well as that culture around him. I even think this could be Sigurd, like if he's shaved, that is. I think his nose is a similar shape, and this man next to him is built just like the one we were talking about earlier, who was leading the Saxons into battle. The trailer highlights the many different facets of Eivor. How did you ensure the character is multi-dimensional? Did you draw any influence from other characters or people? And Darby gives us an answer which is actually quite a good insight on Eivor's character, saying, "We opted to create Eivor as an exemplar of what we felt was a particularly Nordic sensibility, possessed by a deep sense of honour, devoted to family, unflappable in times of strife, unwilling to suffer fools, and possessed of a gallows humour." The character, Egil, from the most famous Egil saga, was one such reference, and although our Eivor is not as moody and prone to wanton violence as Egil, I'm probably saying that wrong, they do share some traits. Both have a penchant for spitting poetry when the mood strikes them, and both have an unshakable sense of honour when it comes to oaths and a person's reputation. The next question asks just how much we can influence Eivor as the player, and just like Darby stated in the past, Darby reiterates that Eivor is fixed in their personality. The choices aren't going to sway them to become a totally different person. The example he gives is that if someone challenges them to a fight in a pub, you could shake it off, buy them a pint or two, or just fight them. having choices but none which make Eivor inconsistent. It seems like Sigurd has just returned from a trip bearing the hidden blade and is accompanied by assassins. Where was he and what was he up to? Here we're told about Sigurd's journey to Constantinople, where he met and befriended the Hidden Ones, learning of their values. Darby also mentions that the Hidden Ones aren't exactly happy with Eivor being gifted the blade. The blade, of course, is something very important to the assassins and something I wouldn't want just anyone to have, and that does make sense, as at the start of the game Eivor is going to be much more of a Viking in terms of personality and values rather than an assassin. Although there is crossover there, I'm sure that will change as the story progresses. We get another look at King Alfred here, and the first look at a new faction, the Sons of Ragnar. What can you tell us about them and how they'll factor into the story? Darby expresses here again that Alfred is a proud man with no tolerance for Vikings, but at the same time the people in his own court are against him. Considering we've seen Eivor alongside Alfred, this could lead into something of an uneasy alliance, maybe. The Sons of Ragnar are Viking invaders who claim to be the sons of the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok, a Viking king who was killed by the Mercian king Ayla almost a decade earlier. The Sons of Ragnar, Ivar, Ubbe and Halfdan have been in England for over 5 years now, vowing revenge on the kingdoms and men who murdered their father. Each of the Sons of Ragnar has a unique and compelling personality. Ivar is wild and unpredictable, a fading rock star. Ubbe is a stalwart and steady with dreams of a pacified England for Danes and Saxons alike, and Halfdan is a kingly figure, wise, powerful and yet paranoid that all his earthly gains will come to nothing in the end. Now this sounds really interesting to me, and I'm interested as to whether all 3 of these actually are Sons of Ragnar, because Darby says they claim to be the Sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, so it's up in the air as to whether they actually are, but either way, that sounds pretty cool. We've seen before that Eivor can build alliances with kings of various regions. Can alliances be formed with anyone, or are some people enemies no matter what? So here we're told that the alliances we make are up to us, but remain historically accurate, which is about what I would want. I'd be interested in seeing how much of an effect this has on the main story, because making alliances feels like that'd create a bunch of loose ends to tie up, and it seems more like a side content thing, but we'll wait and see. Now Darby's answer to the next question is an interesting one. When he's asked how the Assassin-Templar conflict plays into the story, he expresses that we'll get a lot of insight into the ideology of the Order of Ancients, learning how they differ from Templars as we know them, and potentially how their ideologies cross over. And I think having this game be an origin story to both the Templar Order and the Levantine Assassins is a great idea. He also says that both Eivor and Sigurd will have a permanent effect on the two, which I can't wait to see. Him specifying both of those makes me even more confident that Eivor has a huge effect on the Assassins and Sigurd on the Order of Ancients and the Templars, but we'll wait and see. How did you approach the story? Did you plan to tell the tale of Eivor, or the story of 9th century England and the conflict between Saxon and Dane that Eivor is a part of? We modelled the story, or stories, of Assassin's Creed Valhalla after the Norse sagas, some of the earliest examples of Western literature on record. As such, Valhalla feels more like a picturesque, like Don Quixote or the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It's an epic journey full of smaller, self-contained stories, all of which orbit themes of honour, reputation, glory and leadership. Of course, there is a core emotional story running through all of this, and players will watch Eivor go through a series of devastating hardships. All that to say, buckle up for a saga like any you've seen yet. I do like this a lot, that the story is going to take influence from Norse sagas. It'll make the Viking setting feel more purposeful, as opposed to just another popular setting, so that is nice to hear. Finally, when asked if there's multiple endings, Darby says he can't tell us, only telling us there's multiple ways of getting to the game's end, again expressing the importance of Norse literature. If there were multiple endings, I'm certain it'd be made clear which was canon or which was meant to be canon, given the charisma choices which already serve a similar function to that. As well as the fact I doubt Darby would want to create a few plausible endings, which would be as good as none if you knew none of them were confirmed, and none could really have any future effect. Anyway, that's some huge news. Do let me know if I missed anything from the trailer, or if you want to share your own theories. I made this video very quickly, still running off the hype of all this, so if there's anything you mentioned that's interesting or that I've missed, I'll heart the comments so that it's easily visible. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, maybe leave a like, and if you didn't, maybe let me know why. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time.